respects these nations as the traditional stewards of the lands and waters. But I want to say that I personally also honor and respect our Indigenous communities as keepers of these territories, as out of their respect for the lands and the waters on which I live, I work, I play, I raise my family, and for that I'm grateful and try to do my part in, I guess, respecting and maintaining these lands as I am able. Um, Next slide. And with that, we wanted to just sort of do, I think, Kimberly, you're going to launch a poll, just ask where people are joining us from today.
We'll just do the question 1. From where are you joining us this evening? And we have 4 options, Montreal at McGill, from Montreal, or another Quebec university, another Canadian university, and for those of us who don't fit into any of those categories, somewhere else. I'll just let this run for another minute, and then we'll have a sense of where we are.
So maybe, can I still speak while you're letting that run, or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I just am going to give a very brief welcome to the evening and then introduce Dr. Sharma, who will be sharing a little bit more about the MD-PhD program itself. And you'll have a chance to find out about the specifics, the logistics of the application process. And if you don't have enough information at that point, we'll have a Q&A session. So if you need more information, please stay on and just ask and get your questions answered tonight, so you're ready to go forward. So a lot of you, maybe you've already decided what you want to do next. Maybe you haven't decided where you want to do that. But one of the places that you're looking at doing that is at McGill in our MD-PhD program. And for that, we are really excited to receive your applications, maybe meet you in the interview process, and hopefully welcome you into our program. And so we want to tell you just a little bit about the program itself and why you might want to choose it. So next slide, Kimberly. So just, we always sort of highlight this, but the results have come out again, and McGill consistently is ranking on top as one of our top 3 medical doctoral universities in Canada. And this is by the Maclean report, and you can go to the Maclean's magazine to read more about it if there's things you haven't found out tonight, or you want a more, I would say, arm's length review of the programs of what's going on here. So in the faculty, just so you know who else is here already and would be here with you, we have about 850, or just a few more than that, medical students. In that cohort, there's 15 to 20 MD PhD students at any one time. There's also around 900 health professions students doing health professions degrees. We have around 1,400 residents and fellows. And then there's about 21 to 2,600, if we include our interfaculty programs, that are doing PhDs with, or masters and PhDs within our faculty. And so these will be colleagues for the graduate portion of your degree. And among them, we have 300 postdoctoral fellows, and there's over 800 research faculty that you can select from to do your PhD work. So why apply to McGill? Why consider McGill if you're accepted to McGill? I would say, as I've already said, we're one of the top-ranked medical doctoral universities in Canada. We've been consistently #1 for a while now. McGill in Montreal is really a vibrant, educational, and research-rich hub. And it's one of the, I would say, the biggest in North America as a place to live, to study, to go to medical school, to do research. And I would, among your colleagues, your peers, you're going to see some of the brightest and best in the health professions and sciences who are trying to achieve those professional goals. Our faculty has over 35 distinct research centers and institutes, more than 20 different departments, and there is a ton of collaborations across disciplines, within disciplines, between disciplines, across professions, and across borders. And on top of that, Montreal, for anybody who isn't currently living here, is an amazing multicultural city that is, well, I'm going to say still affordable in quotes. It's getting more expensive as is everywhere, but it's still an affordable city, and it's still very student friendly as a place to live. And you can, we have many of our current MD PhD students on this Zoom tonight, and so you can ask questions about that as well as we go. Next slide.
Amy, would now be a good time to
Sure, share your
the
poll.
results of our poll. So this is where we're from. 69% of us are at Montreal or currently at McGill, 6% from another Quebec university, 6% from another Canadian university, and almost a fifth of us are from somewhere else. Maybe we could put that in the chat where someone else is while we switch to Dr. Sharma.
Yeah. And so, yeah, with that, I want to just welcome everybody again to this evening, and I'm going to hand it off to the director of the MD PhD program, Dr. Abhinav Sharma.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ryan, for that wonderful introduction to the program and to Montreal. And I'll be going through over the next 15 minutes or so some of the features of our program, and also we'll then talk to you a little bit about the application process. You'll have the option then later today of meeting a lot of the students, and then we'll hand over to our colleague, Natalie Allen, who will be talking a little bit about the specifics of applying here. So I'm just going to share my screen. Great. All right. So I took the reins of the MD PhD program this year, and I took over from Dr. Mark Eisenberg, who'd been leading the program for about 10 years. And this is our class from last year. We welcomed, of course, new students in the 2025 cohort. And just really, the program was founded in 1985. And really, the primary objective is to train medical students to become physician scientists. This is a very talented and motivated group of students who are determined to really drive biomedical innovation. And we're here to really bridge gap between academic research and patient care. So in the 7 to 8 years that you're in the MD PhD programs, you'll be here to acquire physicians' base of knowledge, core clinical skills, become independent researchers, and also make valuable contributions to the field of study. What are the components of a physician scientist careers? Well, there's a big bag that comes along with it, because not only do you have to be excellent clinically, but there's several different hats that you have to wear, both administratively. So by being a part of research, you inherently need to engage with some degree of administration. There's clinical activities on top of that. There's collaboration, because research doesn't happen in silos and really is a part of a collaborative process. There's management, because you've got to manage and run a team. There's mentoring. I myself have a research lab, and there's research, of course, that you're going to be doing. There's teaching and balancing family with career. So let me just tell you a little bit about my background. So I completed, and I apologize, I'm just getting over a bit of a cold here. I completed my medical school in internal medicine at McMaster University. Then did my cardiology fellowship from the University of Alberta. I did my PhD from the University of Alberta, focusing on large data analytics. And I subsequently went to Duke University for 2 years to do a research fellowship. I did a advanced heart failure and cardiac transplantation fellowship from Stanford. That's where I did my postdoc as well, focusing on digital health and AI. And I started here on faculty in 2019, and I took over the MD PhD program this year. So all of these components of the physician scientist career really applied, and I see this every day. So what are some of the necessary skills and knowledge needed here? Well, you have to be really good at a variety of things, and these are some of the things that we aim to train students on as you go through the program. And that includes how to hunt for jobs, what do you look for in promotions, what kind of teaching do you have to do, how do you get into administrative activity, how do you actually set up a research lab, writing and publishing, grants. Grants is the cornerstone of a clinician scientist's career, and so that's a really, really important aspect of your career profile. Like I said, how do you actually manage a research team? You're almost running a small startup within a research ecosystem. You have to hire people, you have to train them, you have to watch them graduate. So it's actually a really dynamic environment, and managing that team is quite important. How do you actually mentor individuals, and how do you mentor new students who are coming in, and how do you mentor people who are outside of the medical infrastructure? How do you actually build good collaborations and actually deliver effective lectures and presentations? How do you balance the discussions with pharmaceutical industries, and how do you also then balance this with your clinical work and family life? So these are some of the skills that we aim to start to develop as you're going through the MD-PhD program. Let's walk through some of the timelines here. For those individuals who are going to be joining, you go through a year-based process, and of course, year one starts September, where you go through the fundamentals of medicine and dentistry. We call it the FMD. Over the summer, you get integrated into a research project, and that can be in a lab that you're excited about working for, or it could be a research area that you want to really explore. And I should add that many students do already have mentors identified. Some students, like you're at McGill, are already working with a lot of physicians, but some students don't know anybody here, and that's totally fine. We're here to guide you to find the right mentors so you can work with a lab that really excites you and really motivates you to want to do research and to guide you into that career profile. Then, in the January of your second year, you transition into your PhD. And after you transition to your PhD, you then are not involved in any clinical activities at the time or work through the FMD, but you're now in your PhD program. And so you go through that from year 2 to year 3, year 3 to 3, 4 to 5, and then around that time you transition back into the MD program. And this is called TCP, Transition to Clinical Practice. So here you'll learn about the fundamentals of becoming a clinician and the fundamentals of entering into clerkship, which you'll see in year 6 here, and then finally senior clerkship in year 7. And it's in this range, the year 6 to year 7, that you then apply for your residency programs. Most individuals or most students will, of course, have to have finished various milestones before entering into their medical school. Many students already defend before re-entering, but the vast majority finish their PhD defense somewhere between year 5 and year 6. And so the defense and your completion of the PhD doesn't have to finish during that time frame, but has to, though, finish by year 7. How do we select our candidates? Well, we start in November. So that's coming up in a couple weeks here. So we have applications to the MD-PhD program specifically, and we'll talk about that just in a few moments here. We select our top 40 applicants by December, and this is selected by our medicines MDCM pre-screening process. Afterwards, the file is transferred to the MD-PhD Advisory Committee. Each file is read by 2 members, and I review all of the applications, and a score or ranking is given. Based on that ranking, the top 40 will then go down to 20. These 20 candidates are invited to interviews. They go through the regular interview process as per the MDCM program, and they have a second PhD-focused interview as well. Then, after that, we have up to 5 offers. Sometimes we don't want to take up to 5 students, depending on who's there. Sometimes we really want to take a lot of students. So we have up to 5 that we offer, and then we have several more that we put on the waiting list. So this is the process starting in November and going until March. In terms of the Program Advisory Committee, it's a very diverse and dynamic group of individuals that's on this committee. It includes individuals across multiple disciplines, including pediatrics, oncology, biochemistry, surgery, medicine, human genetics. And really, this Program Advisory Committee is responsible for monitoring the students' academic progress, assisting in any issues relating to the program, and also notifying the program director if any issues arise. But they're really there to help support you and to support your journey overall. We have a mandatory seminar series that occurs. Here's an example of a seminar series that was held, let's say, several years ago. But really here is to develop the fundamental skills of success that are needed during your PhD and also in your career as a physician scientist. And we really have very, very diverse individuals that come to our program. As an example, This year, we had one of the vice presidents from the FRQS, which was a big funding agency, show up. And we had an entrepreneur who has launched and sold several companies in the health tech space. He also gave his talk, for example. And we'll have many more speakers that will be able to give unique insights into diverse career options and also to impart sort of pearls of wisdom, if you will. And this also allows these students to gain importance and learn about research communication, statistics, big data analytics, learn about clinical trials, grantsmanships, and entrepreneurships. Also, we'll talk about career trajectories from very accomplished individuals, and also on just the nuts and bolts of how do you set up a lab, how do you consider residency fellowship programs, how do you develop a work-life balance, and also how do you take on greater leadership. These happen approximately once to twice per week, depending on the schedules, and it's really enjoyed by all. It's held at the Thompson House here at McGill University, dinners provided, and it's a really great way to reconnect with your fellow peers in the program. We had a component known as the Letter to the Editor series, and this was a workshop that was held as a part of our seminar series as well. In the past, we've had multiple high-impact publications in New England Journal, Nature Human Behavior, Cancer, British Journal of Cancer, AIDS, etc., where students would essentially write responses to various articles that they were interested in. So this was a program that's been there for a number of years, and we were evaluating, this program and potentially learning to see how we can optimize this program so that we can drive the objectives of the MD-PhD cycle. But this is one example of just tangible outputs that can come by being a part of our program here and some of the things that we've done over the past few years. There's a number of student societies for individuals to get involved in, and this provides professional development opportunities, such as a buddy program, being able to attend various conferences, workshops, develop the retreats, and have social events, and also helps to organize things like this open house and our seminar series as well. And we have different roles, including president, VP student affairs, external affairs, internal affairs, communication, finance, social events, and other representatives. And many of these members are on the call today. In terms of the buddy program, first or second year students are generally paired with an upper year student. This provides guidance and advice. It's about 2 to 3 meetings every year. And also to help facilitate some of these letter to the editor type of programs. Although that may be shifting a little bit in the future, but this really allows juniors to be connected with the seniors. We have an annual retreat that helps us to introduce individuals. This was an old example here. We had our first retreat earlier, and allows us to identify how to initiate research collaboration, learn for opportunities for physician scientists, brings back student feedback, and also allows us to determine future funding opportunities. This is the guide that was also written by the previous MD-PhD program director, Dr. Eisenberg, which is a collaborative effort between McGill students here at McGill, Johns Hopkins, and was published by McGraw-Hill. This will be available to students as well. And there's chapters, of course, on both applying for training, how do you handle residency, transition back into graduate school, transition back into medical school, and how do you think of practical things such as your residency, your fellowship, your first job, talking about wellness, information on specific milestones as well, and first-hand account of experiences. So in the PhD year, students are supported as per, or have to be supported by your supervisor specifically, according to the Faculty of Medicine stipend policy. The MD-PhD program does not provide specific funding to the individual students. So here it's the supervisor's responsibility that provides the stipends for their PhD during their PhD period. However, many of our students hold external awards, including very prestigious awards such as Vanier, FRQS, and CIHR awards as well. So we've been very lucky to have been quite successful in achieving and receiving these awards. And these are some examples over the past few years of scholarships. For example, in the 2024, 5 students were awarded the Vanier out of a total of 10 here at McGill. Several students were awarded the CGSD award, CIHR awards, and the FRQS awards, which are Quebec-specific awards. So we're very happy that a lot of our students have done very, very well with regards to external funding. And so overall, we're very well positioned for by coming through the MD-PhD program, you'll be very well positioned for an academic research career. You'll have a much better chance of getting into very competitive programs and prestigious residency and fellowship programs as well. And you'll really acquire skills that are easily transferable. Now, a lot of students have often asked, well, I don't really know what specialty I'm interested in. Maybe I do a PhD in genetics, but I realize I'm really interested in, oncology or really interested in neurology. Well, a lot of the skills that you gain in the PhD can be very easily transferred to other programs. The skills of critical thinking, experimental design, development of models, writing grants, writing papers, being a part of policy, being a part of governance, all can combine together to provide a very strong set of skills for you to use in the future. Many students want to set up their own labs, which is fantastic, and the MD PhD program will provide that framework and support for you. But there are many students who may not want to set up their own lab, but they want to participate in research, and that's perfectly fantastic as well, because we need people who've got really strong critical thinking abilities to do research and to be integrated into research programs. So really, we're able to acquire skills through this program and easily transfer them into other domains in the future. And like I said before, we want people who are willing to do PhDs, not just in basic sciences, which is sort of the traditional thought of the MD-PhD program, but also to really look towards epidemiology, health services, health economics, management, computer science, biomedical engineering, public health, and more. We have people who've done a very broad array of PhDs, and we're really looking for a diverse applicant pool. So this is some useful information here in terms of emails to consider. Kimberly John, who's on this call, is sort of our program administrator. There's a program website that we're updating right now that'll have additional information for you as well. Now, I'm going to very briefly talk about the distribution of our current students. So 62% of our students are from Quebec. The rest are non-Quebec students. The vast majority, almost 70% here have master's programs. 31% are undergraduate students. And approximately 40% of individuals come from McGill University, maybe reflected in the poll that we took here. And then we have a distribution from other places, including Toronto, McMaster, Waterloo, Winnipeg, other places in Quebec as well, and Montreal. So we have a very diverse group of individuals from Quebec and from other regions in Canada. The undergraduate programs are very diverse, from anatomy and cell biology all the way down to math and physics. We have a very, very diverse undergraduate pool that kind of can come into the MD-PhD program here. And when individuals have done their master's degree, almost 50% of them have come from McGill University, and a variety have come from other locations, including Queen's, London, International, McMaster University, UBC, and others as well. And we've had a diverse background of master's programs, including pathology, neuroscience, biology, all the way down to experimental medicine, psychiatry, and chemical engineering. So really broad and diverse background overall. So what work experience did some of these individuals have before? Well, a lot of them, or many students in the past have worked with industry. Some have been research assistants. We've had people who've had medical device startups. Some have worked as lab techs in the past, teaching assistants, mental health workers. Some have even worked in insurance companies, paramedics. And almost all of them uniquely have contributed in some way to volunteerism, entrepreneurship, not necessarily talking about starting companies, but really contributing to research. Most people have had some hand in grant writing, and most individuals have had some type of publishing or publications that they have as their experience. And that really shows their commitment to research and their commitment to having a career in research. What kind of research did they do? It's been a diverse group from neuroscience, pathology, stem cell, health services, genetics, machine learning, cancer biology, immunology, forensic psychiatry, biomedical engineering, and cardiometabolic diseases. So really, the types of research that students do once they get here is extraordinarily diverse. And we're very happy to offer the broad range of PhDs that are available here at McGill. So I think I'm doing pretty okay for time. Just going to show that, our students are also very, very engaged in a number of activities, both inside the classroom, inside the lab, and also outside. You can see a diverse array of activities that a lot of our students have participated in, both before coming here and also after they've come here as well. So we have a really fun group of people that are part of the program. So with that, thank you so much. If there are any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chats, but I know a lot of the technical details will come very shortly, but I'm happy to address a couple questions right now if there's any. But if not, we can then move ahead to Natalie Allen.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. So I'm just going to share the presentation and hopefully, yeah, we're good. Kimberly, can you give me a thumbs up? We're good. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, looks great.
Okay, so as Dr. Sharma said, this is an information session for the MD-PhD program for university level applicants. So I'm going to be providing a little bit of information about the admissions process and criteria. So the selection process is as follows. So at the beginning, it's 70% academic. Okay, so that's your GPA from your bachelor's degree. 20% Casper, which is the online situational judgment test that you're going to take. There's a written portion and a video portion. Actually, you must have taken it already by October 16th for the English test. And if you're taking it in French, it's October 23rd. The CV counts for 10%, so that's the first part of the assessment, and then the final assessment are the interviews. So just to give you an idea in terms of the applicant pool last year, we had 106 applications for the MD-PhD program. As Dr. Sharma said, there's up to 5 positions. The average GPA of candidates applying and invited to interview, was 3.91. Okay, so that's quite high. So the average GPA for Quebec candidates invited to interview applying to the MDCM program is 3.89, and Canadians was 3.97, because we do only have, unfortunately, 5 positions for out-of-province Canadians, because the government provides us the majority of positions for Quebec university level applicants. So that's a sort of an idea in terms of the GPA, etc. So what is required is a bachelor's degree. Okay, can be in any field. It doesn't have to be in science. For those of you who did a DEC in Quebec, it's a 90 credit degree, 3 years. And for those of you who have done your studies outside of, didn't do a DEC in Quebec, then it's 120 credits. Okay, 4 years. And the average, we're expecting an average of 12 to 15 credits per semester. Candidates can take up to an extra year to complete their degree. That's also okay. So some of you might be applying with a second bachelor's degree, because sometimes if the GPA isn't high enough with the first bachelor's degree, some people end up applying with a second bachelor's degree. We'll always use the bachelor's degree that has the higher GPA for the review of the academic criteria. And it would be 45 graded credits by the deadline. So the winter of 2020 grades semester are excluded because of the pandemic, but for all other semesters, they must include grades. There's a small boost in the GPA calculation for candidates who have done their degree at the higher level, in terms of like 400 level courses, or if you've done a professional degree, a bachelor's degree that leads to professional order like nursing, law, engineering, etc. There's a little bit of a boost within the GPA calculation. So 70% is for the GPA, and within the 70%, 90% is for the bachelor's, and it would be like 10% for a professional degree, higher level courses, or if you've done a master's or started a master's or PhD. Candidates can also apply with extenuating circumstances. I would say if a medical condition or an accident or something happened during your studies, but generally we say that it must be impacting a specific period of time of your studies. If the extenuating circumstances are affecting all of your studies, the full duration, then we would recommend you apply with a second bachelor's degree, because we need to see that before the extenuating circumstances or afterwards, that the performance in the program was fairly high. To be able to make sure that you're able to perform well in the program, because it is quite demanding when you get started. So not only, the GPA is important in terms of, obviously we want to make sure you're following the curriculum, you're doing well once you get accepted, but it's also due to the fact that we have such a high number of applicants for the number of positions we can offer. So you also need your basic sciences, and the MCAT, just to let you know, is no longer required since 2024. Okay, so the basic sciences that you need are they must meet a minimum grade requirement. The GPA is not weighted in the selection process. Okay, and you can have up to 3 courses that are in progress and must be submitted by May 31st. So the basic science courses that are required are 2 biology, introduction biology with labs, 2 chemistry, 2 physics with labs, 1 organic chemistry. We can accept substitutions, but up until September 1st. So at this time, it would be too late. But as I mentioned, if you have up to 3 courses in progress, that's okay. And the courses must meet a minimum grade of about a C. Okay, and the courses will not be weighted in the GPA unless, like, the course you're taking a science degree that has those bachelor's degree that has those courses included, and then those would be factored into the GPA. So French language proficiency is a requirement since 2023, because once you're going to be in the hospital setting, we are in Quebec, so about 60% of the population is francophone. So in order to ensure patient safety, to speak with patients and families, also with your colleagues, it's important that we have the French language proficiency. So we're expecting a B2 level for Montreal. So all candidates admitted to the MD-PhD program are admitted only to the Montreal campus. We do have Campus Outaouais in Outaouais, where the teaching is in French, but the MD-PhD program is provided exclusively at the Montreal campus. Okay, so you would need a B2 level. So in terms of the B2 level, it's to understand extended speech, lectures, you can read articles and reports, and you can present clear, detailed descriptions on a wide range of topics. Okay, so for those of you who did high school and cégep in Quebec, you're exempt from providing a proof of French language proficiency because you're considered meeting the requirements. Or if you did 3 years of secondary, post-secondary studies at a French institution, only in Quebec. So for those of you who might have done 3 years of secondary, post-secondary outside of Quebec, that's not applicable to you. Or if you do the Casper test in French. Okay, so there's the School of Continuing Studies also offers some low-cost option for the written test, and the oral would only be required for shortlisted candidates invited to interview, considered for interview. And on our website, there's a little link where you can click and you can do a practice to sort of see where you are in terms of the level. So that's the list of the different tests where you can take the tests. And some of them, some of them are only valid for 2 years. So what are the non-academic criteria for the evaluation? As I mentioned, I spoke quite a bit about the GPA and the high GPA in general of candidates applying to the MD-PhD program, but we're also looking for the non-academic criteria and skills that will be reflected in the Casper test. As I mentioned, you could take it in French or in English. The CV. Okay, and you must use the CV that's on our website. So don't take time to get a fancy, a font and format and all of that. Just we're focusing more on the content, and please use the template that's on our website. There's a guide also, and there's a part about research and publications that you can fill out for the MD-PhD program. And the final selection is really the mini multiple interviews. Okay, so what we're looking at in these 3 components are obviously the non-academic skills, such as compassion, empathy, because they're going to be dealing with patients, etc. Teamwork, dealing with others. As Dr. Sharma mentioned, there's a lot of teamwork involved in the MD-PhD program. You're constantly collaborating and working together, dealing with conflict. It could be, the different types of situations that do occur also in your life. Adaptability, respect for others, community involvement, dedication, professionalism. So these are some of the non-academic skills we're looking for. Please make sure you also include like more long-term involvement. Some people think they, okay, if I volunteer in a hospital, if I've done it for a day or two, that's fine. I'll put it on my CV. But in general, we're looking for more longer term implications, that you're able to juggle your academics, but you have others, interests, like as Dr. Sharma showed you, the various activities the students are involved with, whether it's sports, whether it's clubs, whether it's social clubs, whether it's volunteering. Yes, there's different activities our students are involved with. So really think about the activities that reflect who you are and what you want the committees, both the MD-PhD committee and the MDCM program to see, and that reflect who you are. So you can think of and look at the CanMed roles, which talk about being a collaborator, a professional, and look at that when you're preparing your CV. And it's also always good to have another person to have a look also. So for the key dates for the MD PhD program, so the online application opens September 1st. To apply for the MD PhD program, you have to include your list of publications, a summary of your research experience, interest, and 2 letters of reference, okay, from referees that can speak about your research experience, etc. All supporting documentation, which I'll talk about in a minute, have to be submitted by November 1st. So you'll be invited to interview if selected, as Dr. Sharma mentioned, by January 26th. So you'll be invited to the MMIs for the interviews with the medicine program, and a separate interview on the same day with the MD PhD program. And so, yeah, you must be considered first for the MDCM program to be considered for the MD PhD program. And interview dates will be February 17th to 20th. Okay. Yeah. And there'll also be like a presentation of you'll talk about the presentation of your research to a panel of physician scientists, and an interview with the current MD PhD students also. And the date for offers of admission is April 1st. The MD program and the CM program starts in August of 2026 with an orientation. And then you're also going to be starting to search for your supervisor and for your research project, etc. And you'll be starting the applying to the PhD program portion for August of 2027. So to submit your application, so as I mentioned, you must complete all prerequisites, including the Casper test. You can go to Acuity Insights. The last date was October 16th, sorry. And in French, it's the 23rd of October. Complete your online application. You submit your 2 letters of reference from individuals who've acted as mentors, supervisors for your research activities. So make sure that the letters include these points. Your research appendix containing a list of research publications and scholarly activities, as well as a 1-page narrative describing your research experience to date, career goals, and subject of interest. You submit your CV. As I mentioned, the CV, you must use the CV that's on our website, the template. Okay. And also the academic history workbook, where you're going to list all of the courses only for your bachelor's degree, and the grades. And there's a guide also, because, for those of you applying from other universities, we understand there's different GPA. Some scales go on a 4.3 scale. McGill goes on a 4 scale, but there's a conversion table chart also, and we'll always convert to the McGill grade. Proof of citizenship and or residency, proof of language, French language proficiency, and transcripts, unofficial and scanned. Okay, and then you get to track your application on the applicant portal. So make sure you provide yourself with a little bit of time and to ensure to submit everything by the deadline date. Okay. Also, an important point to mention is for the letters of reference. Okay, so for people acting as referees for you, they will have 14 days from the date that you submit your application to submit their reference letters. Okay, so don't worry too much if it's closer to the November 1st deadline. We will provide them with the sufficient amount of time that they have to submit their reference letter in support of your application. And that's our contact information from the admissions office, okay? And we can always set up virtual appointments with you or in person on Tuesdays and Thursdays afternoon. That's our few of our MD, PhD, like students and student ambassadors also. And I know you're going to be meeting with all the MD, PhD students shortly, so to ask questions, and that's the website. So we might have time for some questions if there are questions, I think, Kimberly, or
Well, you answered a very important question. It's the question I get the most by email, which is, do I need to submit my application 14 days to give my references time to send in their reference letters before the November 1st deadline? So I think you answered that very clearly, that once you've submitted your application, your references have 14 days in which to submit. So if you submit it on November 1st, they have 2 weeks after November 1st
that's correct.
to submit it.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions? There's a question here. Can we submit more than 2 reference letters if you have more than 2 research supervisors in the past?
Well, it's 2 reference letters that are required. So I would recommend, you really request letters from the most relevant referees that really speak about your current research experience. I think that would be good. Unless Dr. Sharma,
No, I would certainly align with that, and that's what we look at the program advisory committee level, is really highlighting people who know you, who've worked with you, and who could, highlight a lot of your strengths, and maybe even things that you need to work on. But that's okay, right? I think that's what we want to see, is people who you've really worked with and who know you.
Okay, well, I think are there any other questions? Okay, thank you, Dr. Sharma, for that. Oh, we have one question from Mohammed Anis.
Hello. I hope you guys are all doing well. Thank you, Mrs. John, for answering my email just last week. Also, this is actually just to ask the same question again and just make sure everyone is on the same page. And that's in regard to the PhD. You guys explained that we need to apply 1 year after we've been admitted, so it would be for fall 2027 if we're applying for fall 2026. Is that correct? And does speaking to other program coordinators for the PhD actually affect our acceptance rate in any way for the PhD portion of the MDCM PhD or not?
Yes, maybe I could tackle that. So yeah, when you get accepted, that's when you apply effectively to your PhD program. So you essentially need to apply to the PhD program when you're in the MD PhD program. Gaining acceptance into a PhD program before doesn't really help your application in any way. If you know of mentors that you may want to work with, that's great. If there are mentors who are even willing to write references, etc., that's great, but not necessary. But generally speaking, most people know the field, of course, that they want to work in. So when you apply, you find your mentors, then you apply to the PhD after that. So having discussions with the PhD groups before you get it is not it's not that useful overall. But thank you for the question.
Right, that's perfect. Thank you for answering that. A follow-up question, if you don't mind, is mostly in regards to the research appendix. We're asked to speak about our subject of interest for research, and I was just wondering how specific that needs to be in terms of like the subject area. Does it need to be a very, very specific thing that we're interested in researching, or can it still be broad if we want to look at different things? For myself, I'm pretty like wide or broad ranged. So I'm not sure how specific I need to be if you don't mind addressing that. Thank you.
I think it is a good question, because you don't necessarily need to know the exact domain of area that you're interested in. Even if you're a bit undifferentiated, I think it's okay. I think having some sense of maybe the direction of where you want to go. Are we talking, you know, basic science or AI, like if there's some sort of focus, or area that you are more interested in, I think that can be very important. And but you don't need to have the specific, exact, thesis title ready, right? Like you don't need to go to that level of detail. But we do want to see that you've thought about what kind of career or PhD you may be interested in, right? Because you're still applying to the MD PhD program. So what kind of fields are you interested in? And even more importantly, why are you interested in those fields? Like, what is it that's driving you? What's motivating you? Where do you think this is going to take you in your future career options? So you don't need the very specific, but having some idea of the area that you want to be in and why you want to go to that area goes a long way.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
Great.
Dr. Sharma, should we take one more question before we meet the students?
Sure. It looks like there's some in the chat.
There's a two-part question here from Ozan Degani. I'll just read it for everyone. Can we modify the supplementary portion of the application after the submission, but before the deadline? For example, the CV.
Okay, I was gonna write, I was responding, but I'll answer. So generally, it's better to try to make sure, before you submit it, you've reviewed it and you think it's pretty complete. If for whatever reason, you before the deadline, you say, okay, there is something else I wanted to add, you can write to the Med Admissions email address and then request to have the new CV to updated, added and to replace the previous one you submitted. Yeah. For the personal statement, we don't have a personal statement. Okay, well, it's like the research appendix is what we're looking for, and then 2 letters of reference. That's what's required. Yeah.
Then maybe Zach, there's a couple of quick questions. I don't know if it's possible
Yeah.
to do there. Yeah.
About the can you apply with a second degree? Yes, you can. So you can apply with a second bachelor's degree. We'll take the bachelor's degree that has the higher GPA. Is a master's considered a second degree? No. So the basis of admission degree is the bachelor's degree. Okay, the master's degree will count a little bit of a bonus within the GPA calculation. So within the 70%, 90% is for the the bachelor's degree, and 10% is for if you've started a master's, etc.
And when would be the cutoff date be for when our GPA is considered?
Well, GPAs in general 3.5 or above. We consider, you can apply. But as I mentioned last year, and obviously the applicant pool changes from year to year, so we can never guarantee from one year to another, and it does vary from year to year, the GPA, but the average GPA of those invited to interview last year was 3.91 for MD-PhD. But obviously, if somebody has a GPA lower than that, but they do better on Casper or CV, then that can boost them up a little bit. Okay, so generally 3.5.
Okay, great. And the question is also in terms of the cutoff date for when the GPA is considered. Would it be before November 1st, 2025?
Yeah, it's at the time of application, right? So that's because that's what we're basing it on. And basically, if you're invited to interview and let's say offered a position afterwards, we're expecting your GPA to stay relatively stable, okay? After that, but in general, that would be, when we're doing the offers on April 1st, based on the GPA that you applied with for November 1st.
Great. So Kimberly, just for time's sake, maybe we'll move to the meet the students. Thank you very much for that fantastic overview on the application process. Really appreciate your time for that. It's really appreciated.
Welcome.
And so maybe I can introduce Daniel, who's the one of our MD PhD students here, and also the president of the Student Society, who will, I guess, introduce the next section.
Yeah, absolutely. So welcome everyone. So I'm Daniel, a third year in the program. I'm studying neuroscience at the Neuro. And so tonight we've asked a few of our MD PhD students, some of my colleagues, to present themselves and share a bit about themselves. And I did see that there were some questions we didn't have time to get to, but don't worry, we'll have breakout session and a really more intimate place to have those conversations afterwards. So please, the first student who wanted to present themselves.
So, hi everyone. I'm Samantha. I'm a Med 1, so first year in the program. It was nice that we talked a little bit about our extracurriculars because I always want to have an excuse to show a picture of the pony. So that's a bit about me outside of academics. I love to ride horses and I'm trying to continue that into, this program. As for my academic background, I have a bachelor's of science and an MSc, both in neuroscience from McGill. My background is really in sort of like the computational sphere, so computational models of, in this case, for my master's, it was of a head direction system, so for navigation. For my PhD, I hope to take some of that stuff that I learned in my bachelor's and my master's, tie in sort of the patient care aspect with sort of these modeling projects in order to do what I can for Alzheimer's disease. Why an MD-PhD program? For me, it was really a way to sort of be able to do as much as possible for the whole world. It's kind of a cheesy thing to say, but to be able to have the patient care aspect with the research background to sort of answer and tackle the bigger questions that exist, that is really attractive to me. And then for McGill, we all saw what the program outline was, but with having preclinicals first, you get sort of this baseline of medicine. And then when you enter into the PhD program, you can really focus on like expanding and trying to bring the research back to what we learned in preclinicals that is important for human health. When we get back to clinicals in the hospital, it really gives us a chance to sort of apply our research skills in like a different way, and then again, bring it back to that clinical context. For my future goals, I would love to be a clinician scientist and continue to, explore bench work and how to bring those like discoveries to the patient as much as possible. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Mavi. I'm a second year MD-PhD student, so just to reflect kind of the timeline that they'd already mentioned, I'm going to be starting my PhD in January in Dr. Adil Harood's lab at the Neuro, studying some of the genetic and MRI determinants of multiple sclerosis. Why am I in the program? Well, I decided to pursue medicine a little bit later in my academic career. And because of that, I had a lot of different interests and curiosities, and I didn't want to feel limited in the degree that I chose. So I found out about the MD-PhD program through the open house that you're attending now, and I felt like I was a good fit. I also have a strong belief that medicine and research are really cyclically connected and they really thrive when done in tandem. It is really cool to be able to do the preclinical FMD part of medicine and then start your PhD after that. It really does kind of influence, at least for me, it influenced the lab that I ended up ultimately choosing. I also want to mention for anyone that only has a bachelor's degree, I came into the program with only a bachelor's degree, and it is slightly intimidating, but I promise it's completely doable. There's maybe a bit more of a learning curve when you start, but I feel like I very much have the tools to complete the PhD, and it's very doable. That's all I want to say. In terms of my goals, I would like to become a clinician scientist as well. And I would like to balance medicine and research in a way that acknowledges determinants of health and includes marginalized and forgotten patient populations. So something that I really love about the MD-PhD program is that you do get such a patient perspective and you can apply that to your research, and then you can then apply that research back into medicine. So it's all very intuitive with each other, and it's very fulfilling.
Okay, so hi. My name's Francesca. I'm a third year in the program now, so I'm currently in PhD years. So I started off in arts. I was doing a degree in violin actually, and then switched to social sciences in anthropology, which I absolutely loved. And then by the end of it was kind of like, what do I want to do? I really want to do research. I love the human side of anthropology, and I ended up kind of falling in love with medicine. But I couldn't let go of the research side of it. I loved doing research so much. I couldn't see myself not doing a graduate degree. So for me, doing both was so important. So I did a master's in epidemiology first, at McGill here in perinatal research, and then actually started my PhD before getting accepted into the MD-PhD. So I had a couple months completed of the PhD already. So now I'm back to my PhD after completing the 1.5 years of medical school, and I'm looking at in utero risk factors for autism spectrum disorder, really in the context of using large databases and kind of advanced epidemiological methods to establish like causation. So I love the program. I love having that clinical side that informs my research. It's super helpful, especially completing that first 1.5 years of medical school really gives you that foundation to be able to conduct more informed research. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Nicole. So I'm a 4th-year MD PhD student, second year PhD. And so for me, I really liked to have mathematical and computational work done, which is why I had a joint biochem and math BSc. And for my master's, I also pursued continued programming, especially in the generative model framework. So for my master's, I was studying generative adversarial network, actually, which is what led to my PhD also in Right now, I am creating precision therapeutic response through conditional flow matching, which is also a branch of diffusion models, if you're familiar with those. And so for me, I think for my future career, it's quite flexible. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of people who are also in the joint mathematical, computational, and medical field. So I think that's kind of the beauty of being in both fields is that you can choose to do entrepreneurship, to work in more computational work, but still bring a lot of impact. So yeah.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Jay. I'm currently in the 4th year in the program here as well, going into about 2/3 done in my PhD. So I did my undergrad at Master University, also did a master's in medical sciences in the same institution, where that's when I had my first ever, I think, research experience where we looked at PCSK9's role in terms of cholesterol mediation as well as fatty liver disease. And so this got me kind of interested in looking at cardiovascular disease as a whole. And so afterwards, coming into the MD PhD program, the biggest reason why I applied and eventually pursued this is because I think it's very, very exciting not just be able to like memorize or like even understand the guidelines, but also refine them and make them better based on current research. So I think that's like the most exciting thing ever. That's why I'm also pursuing hoping to become a clinician scientist as well. And so I'm currently supervised by Dr. Sal Daskalupulu, where we look at the role of carotid atherosclerosis from a sex-specific lens. And to understand these sex differences, we're looking at the role of sex hormones and how they actually either prevent or exacerbate ischemic stroke. And so yeah, nice to meet everyone here. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
So hi everyone, my name is Mimosa. I'm a year 5 in the program, which means I'm currently wrapping up my PhD thesis to go back to medicine. In terms of what I did before the program, so I did a bachelor's in biomedical sciences kind of as a gateway to medicine. I didn't get in the first round, ended up doing a master's because I did research in my bachelor and I was really interested. I fell in love with psychiatry, with research, and then kind of like Francesca said, I couldn't see myself doing one or the other. I had to do both. And so I joined this program here. I'm now a candidate for the PhD in mental health in the Department of Psychiatry. And I do my research at the National Institute for Legal Psychiatry that we have. In terms of why I'm doing this program, so as I said, I'm really curious about all aspects of patient care. I did it on the research side and then in shadowing, and I really wanted to be implicated in all those steps. So identifying a problem, kind of figuring out what the best way to answer it is with a research project, and then potentially following that through with implementing it at the clinical bedside, but also thinking about things like what policy can we put in place for our patients, what in medical education needs to change so that we can better respond to this problem. So these are all questions that are really interesting, more on the health research side. And so that's what I hope to do as a physician scientist, just to put it into context, because before I joined this program, I didn't know what a physician scientist did. But there's all kinds of different splits that you can do with your time. You can do mostly research, some clinical, you can be 50-50. So the split is really up to you to build, depending on your interests. And so that's going to change for all of us as we move through this program, but the beauty of it is that you get to individualize it and follow your passions in that way.
Hi everyone, I'm John Miguel Romero. I apologize in advance to my colleagues. I missed the memo where we were only supposed to have one slide, so please bear with me. This will go by quickly, I promise. So I'm John. I'm a seventh year program in this, and I'm a seventh year student in the program. So I'm currently back in medicine in year 3. And so here are a few prompts. So in terms of who I am, I think it's a longitudinal process. We're still trying to figure this out. I didn't mention here, I forgot, but I did my undergrad at U of T and my master's at U of T, and then I came here to do the MD-PhD program. In terms of what I like to do, I like to listen to music. I like to, next part, yeah, so these are some of the bands that I like. I like playing guitar. A few things, I like to weight train. In terms of, if you go to the next section, in terms of, yeah, how much I can bench, it's less than I wish. That lift see above. I also have a cat, which I forgot to mention, is a picture of Sir Benjamin Malesworth. It's very important, I think, to have some sort of a companionship. Obviously, your family, friends, pets do a great job also of keeping you sane while you do this degree. Next slide. I'm going to be a terrible cat parent and just show pictures. Next slide. And that's the last one. I kind of spending times with loved ones, as I said, is very important. Here's a picture of my mom and dad. My dad passed away from pancreas cancer, so that was really the impetus for me wanting to study medicine as well as do research, because as I came to learn, it's very hard to treat pancreas cancer. So I felt that doing this degree would help us kind of better understand how we can treat this. Next slide. In terms of why MD PhD and why McGill, you can do a PhD in different parts of your training because of what we've seen so far from the different presenters. During your medical school training is a great opportunity. You have focused research time, and it really helps you carve a research interest, especially after having done some component of medicine. It helps you kind of guide your way through. Next section. McGill MD PhD is unique. Next part. Several labs have trained MD PhD students, so several of the students in the program have already trained under labs that have had many students in the program already, so they know what it takes to supervise MD PhD students. There's a strong publication record amongst trainees. So these are some examples of the letter to the editor session that Dr. Sharma mentioned, and this is a great opportunity that, as far as I'm aware, is unique to McGill, where you get together with senior students and junior students, and then you can write a publication and kind of helps with your CVs and different applications for scholarships. McGill MD PhD students have a strong win rate, so you can apply to these different awards. These are some example awards that I've been fortunate to receive, and there are a few other ones as well that you can receive as well throughout the faculty and throughout the McGill. Next slide. TCP is also unique to McGill. Next slide. So as Dr. Sharma mentioned as well, you don't transition, go back a slide, please. You don't transition directly into MD, but you have this period of about 6 months where you slowly transition as a second year student. And this is very helpful after having come from doing your PhD for 4 years. You can then slowly get integrated into your clinical work. And this is something that's unique to McGill and really is a selling point and part of the reason why I chose McGill. Next slide. The community is very strong. So here's a picture that we had recently of our, I think, second last group meeting. Next slide. We also have fun activities. Here's a picture where we were making some bridges. I think I was upset there because we lost her. I was having a bad day at the lab. I forget. But then next slide, we also have some fun opportunities, and that kind of make me happy again. I was wearing the same shirt. It was a rough week that week. I didn't do laundry yet. Next slide. And then also, this was very nice. There was an opportunity to go to a conference that was funded by the program. So here's a few of our colleagues. We represented the McGill MD PhD program, a part of this kind of national conference that brings together different faculties, and kind of we talk about what it means to be a physician scientist. Next slide. So in terms of goals, I plan to finish my PhD, as Dr. Sharma said, and as part of the rules, kind of before you enter Med 4, that's the ideal time to finish. In terms of what I'd like to do, I'd like to go into general surgery and then do a hepatobiliary fellowship. And ultimately, next section, I've had the fortunate opportunity of training under a surgeon scientist, George Zagopoulos. So he's really mentored me a lot. And I'd like to have a research program understanding the immune system in pancreatic cancer. Next slide. So if you have any questions, it might not be there, but you can reach out. Yeah, it's right there. You can just send me an email and I'm more than happy to talk more about the program. Thanks.
We did it, John. It worked. Okay, our next section is to have breakout groups with some of the existing students at McGill. I have already assigned the groups. I'm going to open it up. And if you had questions in the chat that we didn't quite get to, please bookmark it. And remember, you can take it into the breakout room with you. And then there'll be a little time after the breakout rooms for you to ask questions to the wider panel. Dr. Sharma, Natalie, and I will be floating in between the rooms too, so you'll have a chance to ask us questions there. All right, so I'm going to open up the rooms.
I had the opportunity to float through a lot of the meeting rooms here and a lot of great questions, a lot of good discussions here. So in the last, 20 minutes or so, just want to reopen it up to see if there's any additional questions from the group. If not, that's totally fine. But I just wanted to open it up right now, see if there's any burning last minute technical questions or sort of application questions here.
I also want to specify, somebody asked me about the basic science courses and substitution. So I might have mentioned an earlier deadline, but requests for substitutions, just to specify and clarify, are accepted until September 30th. Okay. So if any of you had that, it was up until September 30th. Otherwise, we do require the basic science courses, and up to 3 courses can be in progress and submitted by May 31st.
Perfect. Great. So I don't see a lot of additional questions here. So if there are any questions in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're very happy to respond via email. And I want to thank all of our students here for contributing to the breakout rooms and answering all the questions. Thank you, Kimberly, for your help as well. Natalie, thank you so much for all of your excellent, phenomenal advice. Amy, Ryan had to leave, unfortunately, a bit earlier, but thank you to her as well. And we look forward to seeing your applications. Hopefully, you're interested in the program, and hopefully, we'll see some of you in the future. So all the best, and thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it, and have a good rest of your evening.